I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna. Houston, you have a problem. Hey! I said the ultimate dad joke that probably has been said by every Houston Texans reporter, analyst, fan out there when it comes to the when it comes to the tenny, when it comes to the Texans. It's a long day. So, hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We're concluding the AFC South, and we're talking about the team that probably had the most upside, and I'm feeling like the window is getting kind of closed before they're being forced into very drastic decisions. The Houston Texans. A team that I feel like we keep forgetting that they were an expansion team so long ago, and they had such great promising. They have players that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Some already going to be already in the Hall of Fame, but many will probably be there. They're built by a young, inspiring head coach who has built a dominant force as a defensive minded coach in a time where defensive minded coaches are considered not worthy of the future day of offensive firepower. And now we are here in a time wondering, the window's getting closed, and before I know it, your star rookie players are going to be asking for big money, and they deserve it. What are you going to do? Not every year Lamar Jackson and Mahomes and Burrow will not be in the playoffs. And yet you couldn't get far enough. Let's talk about the Houston Texans. You guys didn't really resolve the issue I was worried about. You did draft 2 wide receivers, both from Iowa State, so that's funny of you. But it really felt that, I know you didn't have a first round pick, I know that. I understand that. But it just felt like you guys didn't resolve the receiving problem. And it felt like you were relying that CJ Stroud was going to keep making lemonade out of the very few lemons he had. But also your offensive line was very terrible too. But even with all that, I still believe in defense. Even though I do play offense, I still believe defense is awesome. That's why I would love to play offense on a defense that's dominant and not a defense that sucks and the offense has to be dominant. Trust me, those are very long seasons. But I still felt like you were the superior team in the division. 11-6 was still my high point. Yes, you might have had a stump toe here and there, but at the end of the day, I feel like CJ Stroud would have still been effective enough. Not this question mark that his sophomore slump kind of dictated. But now I'm trying to be like, okay, now it's no longer a slum. Now it's it's becoming an identity. So we need to fix this very much this year and avoid that. And my big concern, of course, will be your offensive line and your receiving core. But if things would have gone just slightly south, 8-9, I still feel like you guys were still a good team. But I feel like there have been some bumps here and there that probably would have derailed your season. But you told me to shut the F up forever, and you went 12-5. Far better than I expected, but I can't help how much of it was the defense covering up for the offense's lackluster. Now, granted, there were some games you guys did lose, you guys probably should have won. And then there were some games you won that you probably shouldn't have. So it was an equal balance. It is the yin and yang of your world. Best game we'll go to will be Week 12 versus Buffalo. Now, Week 12, it's still in the heart of the midway part of the season. But when it comes to conference foes, of course, the big factor comes into playoff positioning, especially if you manage to win the division. A win against Buffalo could potentially put you in position of getting a higher ranking. It didn't matter. You still had to go on the road, but good thing you're playing the Steelers, so I guess it's a fair trade-off. But the Bills, that was still considered, the prime, caliber team of the AFC. Even though the somehow New England Patriots, they did something, cleaning my ears out because, yes, I'm hearing myself correctly. Yeah, New England did things and won the division again for the first time since Brady has not been there. So I'm sure people in the AFC are having PTSD about that time. But don't worry, they sucked in the Super Bowl. So karma or balance, like I said, yin and yang. It's the best game because it's an opponent that, if you want to prove your doubters and prove confidence in yourself, you guys can beat a playoff caliber team, that there's a very good chance you're going to meet in the playoffs, regardless of which way it's going to be. You need to beat teams like Buffalo, and you have to, and you did. Now, granted, looking at the stats, the big stat factor here is the Buffalo's 3 turnovers, not to mention 8 sacks or 70 yards. Boy, that's a big, like I said, kudos to your defense. Like I said, the defense probably covered up a lot of situations. Now, granted, Mills was your quarterback, so I guess my evidence is more apparent on that statement that this was clearly the Texans' defense, you know, probably saving your season. Because remember, Mills was always had that great comeback against Jacksonville, which I probably could have put at your best game, but I felt like division foes maybe not hit as much as the conference foes for Buffalo. So to me, this was your best game. It showcased, and under the bright lights of prime time, you guys can step up. Plus, I kind of made the rest of the league be like, yeah, maybe their offense might be, be a little, inconsistent. Yeah, maybe, yeah, but boy, 8 sacks and 3 turnovers by that defense alone will make any bad team great. So to me, that was the game that showed prime time why the Texans need to be feared. But also makes me wonder, man, if your offense could just be, mid-tier at best, more consistent, man, you guys would have been a powerhouse. Your worst game, week 9 versus Denver. This game was not a good game for Denver either. It's one of those games where you feel like if your defense can do so much for you. Now, granted, Mills was in that game as well, but the big factor for this one was, it wasn't a field goal game, but it was a field goal game. I mean, Stroud was there, but the big thing was Mills ended with 137 yards. So, yes, CJ Stroud did play, but let's be real, it was more David Mills, trying to save the team on his own in a way. But when your defense keeps an opponent to under 20 points, I just can't help but wonder, really? You guys couldn't get anything going? You couldn't do something? I mean, kudos to your kicker. He did everything he could. I mean, he was 5 or 6, so yeah, that field goal there miss was a costly one. But if your defense keep a team to 18 points, I just can't help but feel like you couldn't get one touchdown somewhere. That Denver defense is legit. And if the Houston and the Broncos would have met in the playoffs, I hope, but I couldn't help but feel like it might be the same way. A defensive struggle to these two defenses going at each other. I just can't help but Bo Nix had less than 180 yards. I mean, let's look at the stats. Houston, Denver had 100 yards rushing, you had 77. Passing, 171 to Houston's 191. Both offenses, barely 270. The turnover factor and the sacks, and of course, Houston nearly had 10 minutes more time of possession, but that led to nothing. It's the worst game because Denver wasn't that good. And this is more of a hindsight because it was week 9. But man, the tide would have turned. You guys would have somehow found a way to steal that win from Denver. Because Denver was not really as solidified offensively as it kind of did later. But defensively, yeah, this was defense. MVP. Now, I could be a real, I'm just changing the rules because I can. But, ah, I'm doing what they did in the Super Bowl years ago, and I'm splitting it. The MVP for me goes to probably the heart and soul of the defense. Hunter and Anderson, your two defensive ends. Hunter had 15 sacks. Anderson had 12. They both had 3 forced fumbles. Both had fumble recoveries. They both had 3 defensive deflections. They both had 15 plus tackle for losses. They both had over 100 yards of sack yardage. These two players were so similar. Yes, one got more sacks than the other, but I can't help it because the pressure of you leading me to him probably led to my sacks. But you guys played so well. Anderson had way more solo tackles, but Hunter had more sacks. But I'm giving these two co-MVP because they deserve it. They were that dominant, these two. Grade for the Texans. With the success of Mills saving your guys' season and the defense playing as well as it did, and the lackluster offensive firepower that I wanted them to have, I'm giving you guys a B. For it needs to be better. Could be better. Probably should have been better. Because that defense covered up a lot. That defense covered up a lot. I mean, even with Marks and Chubb as your running back, it's still the defense covered up a lot. B, could be better. Now, when it comes to your draft, we're addressing an offensive line situation. Yeah, we are addressing the offensive line. And in no real order, I'm just going to throw out a name, but these are the 3 that you're picking at 28th. Now, could you trade out of the first round? I'm going to say yes, but depends on how far in the second round. If you trade out from 28 to 34, that's okay. That might say. But if you trade from like 28 to 48, I'd be like, ooh, that's a 20 pick difference. But you really address that offensive line and then probably address the receiving core threat. So, in the 20th overall pick in the 2026, I have Caleb Lamau, offensive tackle from Utah. Caden Proctor, offensive lineman, Alabama. He's very athletic. I heard he... And then this new guy that I've been hearing his name a lot, so I did my research. Max Ihan Archer, Anchor. Ihan Acker. I'm going to get that name right. Offensive tackle, Arizona State. He's the other one of the offensive tackles I've been hearing a lot in a lot of mock drafts in the later rounds, and I feel like a lot of the bigger ones will probably be out, but he's the one that I'm seeing him as that he is potentially that late first round, early second round acquisition. I'm probably leaning more towards Proctor. Proctor has more of an athletic side to it. But honestly, getting offensive lineman, especially an offensive tackle, just feels like you guys need it. So pick one. Pick one, please. And protect CJ Stroud. And then use your second round pick to probably address the receiver core. That's what I feel like the Texans should do. Which is something they did last year, but your 2 wide receivers didn't really make a big impact as you probably wanted. So address it. And that it concludes the Houston Texans and the AFC South. And like I always do, we're in the AFC. We did the South. They're both done. Maybe they'll rise again. Maybe they won't. So let's go to the arch nemesis of the South, to the North. But let's leave them for last. Let's go to the East. And we're going to go to the AFC East. And I think we must address it because I feel like I've been giving them too much time to prepare for the upcoming. We're gonna start the AFC East with the New England Patriots, the AFC champion New England Patriots. Yep, haven't heard that title in a while, but at least they're not defending Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, so we can take our blessings from that. So until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.